Flow with the show. Hey, hope you're doing all right. This is Flow with the Show, episode number 6. I can't believe it. I am Toronto electronic music vocalist Flo Anastasia, and a very, very special guest with me today. I'm so honored and grateful. It is Laurie Charlesworth, an absolute shining light in the world of drum and bass radio, media, music journalism, presenting, making people laugh and inspired. Thank you so much for being here, Laurie. Laurie, how are you?
I'm good. Honestly, I'm so happy that you've asked me to do this because you've just also bring so many good vibes and happiness into the world, and I thought this is going to be such a lovely little situation, this. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that as well, because I do kind of go through like everybody, the sort of the negativity and like depression kind of stuff. So whenever somebody tells me that I'm able to bring some sort of positivity to them, that really, really means a lot to me. So thank you so much for that. And super cool as well to kind of interview you, because interview/podcast, hang out with you, because you're the one that's like always, I see like interviewing and working with so many huge artists, and I just was like, oh, it'd be so cool to like interview you and turn the tables.
Yeah, and that's how I feel as well. Like I just said to you before, I was like, oh, this is weird. I'm like, have I got everything? Yeah. Is my backdrop okay? Yeah. I was like, this is just such a weird thing for me, but I'm quite, I don't know, it'd be a nice experience as well, just to be able to talk. I don't know, and just talk with you about different things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Well, first off, I really want to congratulate you. I know that the radio show that you host, Drum and Bass Radio on Spotify with DnB All Stars, is the #1 show with music on Spotify, and you guys have hit 2 million starts. Absolutely amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just crazy. DnB All Stars is a massive platform, isn't it? So I think that's helped kind of get the show out there, but it's doing really well. And I think for me, it's just a real pleasure to be able to do a show of that scale, which is literally reaching like so many different people in different countries, and everyone's just like bringing such positive vibes. And that to me is like, it really helps me. I don't know, just really gives me the enthusiasm that I have for the show, because people just love DnB, don't they? They absolutely love it. So when there's a show like with loads of their favourite tunes, I feel like it's just resonating with a lot of people, and a lot of people have said it's helped them through lockdown too. So amazing. For me, it's just like, okay, it's given me more, I don't know, I'm really happy with it. I
really love that something like that can also hit so many, like, you're worldwide, you're hitting so many different countries, and the fact that you kind of get that feedback as well. Like, I know for me, drum and bass is always, for the last 10 years that I've known about drum and bass and have fallen in love with it, it's definitely just felt like such a community for me, even though, when I look at Toronto compared to like the UK or maybe like, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, parts of Europe, it's not as big in, Canada as it is in other places. And yet you still feel that sense of community and belonging and, knowing other people online, I guess. Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely like a little community that is worldwide, from DJs and producers to ravers. It's like, it's the most beautiful thing, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in other genres, but drum and bass just feels special, doesn't it? I feel like we're in our own little world of like, we're special, we're like DnB heads all together as one. It's a beautiful community. I love it.
Can I ask you, this is like, you're the perfect person to ask this question. In my mind, being in Canada, I'd always sort of looked at the UK, and like I've never raved in the UK or anything like that, but based on the internet, it seems to me like it's so popular in the UK, like drum and bass, and yet sometimes I've talked to a couple people here and there, and they're like, actually it is still kind of underground. It's not like every single person on the street that you walk by like knows what drum and bass is. Is that true?
Yeah. It's still not, I'm still very much like it's still classed as a racket, I think, to the majority of people. Like, a lot of my family, they're like, oh, Laurie's doing something with like racket music. Like, really? No one really knows. Yeah. I mean, my mum's quite tapped into it now, but I think generally a lot of people see it as quite a heavy thing, and they don't really know about like liquid. They're so put off by the louder, like jump uppy sounds that they haven't really given drum and bass as like a whole genre the chance when it can be so beautiful. But yeah, I think on the whole, unless it's like tarantula or rudimental in the club at 4 a.m, like that 15-minute like drum and bass at the end of the night, then yeah, it's not really a thing. That's why it's so big when like Sigma or the Prototypes were played on Greg James's show recently on Radio 1, because that just never happens. And it's like when DnB reaches through to the commercial sector, everyone's like, what? It's like, what is going on here? But it's yeah, and that's why it's quite special for people here that things like that happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So what about over there then, where you are? Is there a big scene?
I guess the way that I sort of compare it is even like the fact that there even is like, you know, a drum and bass show on BBC Radio 1, to me, I was like, oh, that's mainstream. That means it's huge.
Yeah.
Like, here on radio specifically, we've got drum and bass only on, I would say, like community radio stations. So for example, in Toronto, there's a University of Toronto and they have a college radio, and every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. is the drum and bass show, The Prophecy, and that's been running for like, I think over 20 years or something like that.
Wow.
Longest running show in North America, I think. So random
yes.
plug.
Go listen to it.
And so that's sort of the radio scene is more, you know, kind of infrequent, but, you know, super kind of committed and loyal listeners and hosts. And then in terms of shows, there is, whenever a big headliner comes, like from Europe or something, like if Andy C's here, whatever, there's, you know, a massive show. And when I say massive, it's probably like what's considered like probably a low to medium sized show in the UK, but it might be like, I don't know, like a couple thousand people in like a medium sized venue. We don't have any drum and bass specific festivals. There are a couple of festivals that maybe have like a drum and bass stage. And then more frequently, back when shows were still kind of going in person, there are a lot of small shows that are, you know, every Sunday night we've got church in Toronto. Used to have Thursday Timeless Thursdays. And so, and then, you know, those shows, I often joke, like, you could go and you'd be like the only person there, or like three other people. And then other times it's like kind of packed, but they're like bars kind of.
Yeah.
And then, but even if you are sort of one of the only people there, you do feel like you're in this special kind of community, and you're there because you love the music, and it does feel kind of like a tight-knit community. Yeah. So that's when I like look at, you know, videos of like festivals and things like in UK and Europe, I'm like, oh my God, let it roll. It's huge. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, there are some huge festivals, and like I would say, I mean, yeah, it sounds like in comparison there's obviously maybe a much bigger scene here, but what I like about places like where you live is, I don't know, it's just, is it quite nice that it's a bit more like tight-knit? Like, do you know a lot of DnB heads in your area? Is it like a thing where you're like, oh my God, we're all DnB heads, we're going to be mates now?
Yes. Yeah, you know, when I was younger as well, and I didn't really know anybody in the scene, so I was only finding out about shows like through the internet. There were so many shows in the first few years that I went to by myself because I couldn't find anyone else at that point. I didn't really have any drum and bass friends other than like on SoundCloud. And then, but I knew that even if I went by myself, I would still like not feel super alone, and like maybe meet a friend or two, maybe see a familiar face. So there's for sure that. But also, because it's small, I've definitely felt a couple of benefits from that. One of my favorite memories is I remember when LTJ Bookham was in town, and the club that he played was like, I don't know, there's maybe like a few hundred people in there. And then at the very end of the night, he was the last to play as well. Lights went on. Most people left. There was like maybe like 10 stragglers, and Bookham is just like at the DJ set, like right in front of you, just like packing his stuff, and like there's nobody talking to him. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just gonna like slowly walk over and like, hello, like.
I love that, and I bet he loved that too. I bet that was a nice moment.
Yeah, I mean, I realized, so in that moment as well, I'm like, you know, while the scene is not huge here, I realized that this kind of thing is probably really precious, and that, you know, maybe if he was playing a festival like this wouldn't happen probably, so.
Yeah, no, definitely not, probably. Yeah, they'd want to escape.
Yes, and speaking of hardcore fangirling, one of my big questions for you is, so every time I see you, you know, like you've interviewed and worked with so many massive artists in drum and bass, and every time I see you kind of on video or listening to you interviewing them, you are so charming and calm and funny, and you're not like a nervous wreck the way I would be. So how do you like stop yourself from fangirling? How do you just keep your cool and do such an amazing job like you do? That's a big question, I realize.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much. I don't know. Do you know what? It's definitely something that you learn to do. I think from very little, I was like, I don't know. I've never had a problem with chatting to anybody, like ever. Doesn't matter who you are, I'll chat to you. Doesn't faze me at all. So I think I was always like that as a kid, and then had that through my teenage years to now. So yeah, that's that. And then also, like, I feel like my mum's just brought me up really well in the respect that it doesn't faze me if you're like a huge DJ, if you're, you know, the cleaner in the gym. To me, it's like everybody's the same, and I'm going to treat everybody with respect. And I think that having that mentality has meant that it doesn't really faze me when I speak to big artists, because I'm just like, you know, you're a human. Right. You eat and shit like I do, and have like mental health issues. Yeah. You know, we're all suffering with different things. And it's like everyone's just human to me, and I think that, I don't know, just remembering that when I'm interviewing someone is key. And it's like, you know, you don't know what they're going through, and I think just making everyone, I don't know. I'm just happy to talk to people. I think so. I feel like I have to stay calm, and then it just, I don't know, it just ends up going the way it does.
Amazing.
If that makes sense.
Amazing. It does. I mean, it's such an interesting thing, because it's got to be like such a balance, because I've been reading up a little bit about this or listening to other podcasts where, you know, I listen to like a lot of stand-up comedians on each other's podcasts, and one of them who's kind of like coming up in the comedy world often says like, you know, I'm doing all these big podcasts, and I have to just remember that like they're an equal, and I can't like, you know, talk about how amazing they are and like whatever. Yeah. And I think like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but in my mind, and maybe it's just, you know, definitely like a practice thing for sure. In my mind, I want to show respect, and, you know, I don't feel like an equal. So, you know
yeah, I get you. Do you know what it is? It's just practice. It's the more you do it, the more you, I don't know, I feel like I've interviewed so many people now, and I think that something that I've seen is how human everybody really is. Like, people turning up late and being like, can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. People turn up late and being like, fucking hell, I was stuck on the M40, or, oh, my cat's just been sick. And it's like, sweet, it's all right, we can just chill for a bit. And it's like just seeing these tiny little bits of humanity across everybody. I don't know, it just helps you over time be like, you know, we're all just human beings trying to do our best, whether that's like in music or like doing what I do, presenting. So yeah, it's just experience. So the more people you interview, the more people you see, I don't know, you'll see that everyone's just as fucked up as you are. Yes. And you're all in the same boat, really.
Do you have this is maybe like an unfair question, but do you have a favorite interview that you've done, or favorite artist that you've interviewed?
I don't. I literally don't. Do you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. I've not had one bad interview ever. There was only one interview that I've done, and it was with someone, and they were off their heads at a festival, and he was quite rude to me. But it's fine. Like, I can appreciate that he was maybe, you know, had too many Panda Pops and stuff. but actually, like, everyone's been lovely, absolutely everybody, and it's like I could, you know, that's what I love. That's why I love talking to so many people, because actually everyone's kind of just nice, and I think that there's a lot of people that have reputations because they're busy and maybe they don't want to hang around at the back of a festival, so they maybe get a bit like, you know, they want to get away and they're perceived to be at X, Y, and Z. But everyone I've spoken to has been nice, so no, I don't have a favourite. Okay, they've all been my favourites.
Amazing. That's probably the right answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one that stands out. I don't know. I really enjoyed chatting with AMC recently.
Cool. Yes.
We had a really good hour and a half chat, and it was really. He said some really good things to me. So something, as I've kind of grown older, something that's really important to me is trying to bring up topics that are needed to be brought up. So racism and sexism, and trying to bring these things up so that people like AMC will speak about them. So in a recent interview that I did with him, he started talking about homophobia, and when he was talking about it, I asked him if there was anything in the scene that he'd like to see change, and he said, you know, we're trying to tackle sexism and racism, but no one's talking about homophobia. And I was just like, yes. And when he said it, I was like, that is so important to come from him, because it has to come from the top for the people that maybe are a little less educated or maybe not so open-minded to stuff like that, to be like, oh, okay, if AMC's talking like this, then maybe I should consider it. And that for me was really, really important. And I love that interview for that particular segment, because I was like, I hope that someone listens to that and takes something from it.
That's such a great point, because you're absolutely right. Like, seeing, it's the kind of like walking the walk instead of just talking the talk, and that, you know, for example, when you're young, there's a lot of like, don't do drugs media. Like, it's not like people in school don't tell you that, but like, I think there's a big difference when you maybe see somebody like a big role model or somebody in the spotlight who then just kind of like lives the life of, I guess, maybe a more responsible or accountable person or whatever. And then it's like, you know, it's not just kind of something that's being shoved down your throat of like, you should do this or don't do this. It's more like, setting an example, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a lot of, I've seen a lot of DJs talking about going sober in the last however many years, and they're posting about it on TikTok. Like Mosey posts about it quite a lot, and I really respect that, because he does have loads of followers on TikTok now. He's smashing it.
Yes.
It is funny. But, you know, people are watching him. He's kind of growing within the scene, and he's talking about being sober, and he's been sober for this amount of time, and if anybody wants help with it. And I just think yes, mate. I'm just like, that's brilliant, because I hope that people that love your tunes kind of look at what else you're doing and go, oh, he's sober. Oh, I thought drum and bass was about getting fucked.
Exactly.
Oh, maybe it's not.
Sometimes.
And he makes naughty tunes. So yeah, I don't know. It's important to have people give good influences, I think.
Yeah, I agree. This is really cool to get a chance to talk to you, so I just want to thank you again. I'm doing what I'm not supposed to be doing, which is telling you how much I admire you, so just get it out.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support too. Yeah, I really appreciate it, honestly.
Absolutely. I'm so curious. So I want to take it back a little bit. I love kind of hearing people's life stories, and, you know, as we go through the winding road of life and like the twists and turns and stuff, I'm so curious if, as a kid and going through school and stuff, did you always know that you wanted to be in radio and music journalism, presenting? Like, what were your dreams? What were Laurie's dreams as a kid?
Oh my God. So I always wanted to be an actress, actually. That was how it started. I've always been quite confident, and like, I was the class clown, basically, in a nutshell.
Nice. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
You'd have been hilarious to go to school with, I can tell.
Yeah, I was a proper little troublemaker, like cheeky. Anyway, so I wanted to be an actress. In fact, I was really interested in doing comedy. And my drama teacher when I was younger was like, you know, she's got like comedic timing. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do that then. So I tried the whole acting thing and did a bit of stage school, and then I think I got to 15 and went and did an audition. I'm just going to put this camera on thing again. Oh no, maybe not. Oh, there you go. Do my hair. I just stopped filming, so I just put it back on.
Nice, thanks.
But yeah, so I went to an audition in Manchester, and I just remember doing this piece, and I proper put myself out there, and it was like, I hated how they responded to it. She looked so bored and was like, looked at me like, all right, see you later. So then I've forgotten the question. Is it just what?
Yeah, just like how you got into. Did you always know you wanted to, you know, get into that kind of thing?
Okay, so I tried the acting thing, and yeah, like I said, went to that audition, and then there was just something in me that was like, oh. And I've always really been into sharing music, so I was always the one at college that was sat on the computer, not really doing any work, but had playlists on YouTube of like old like dubstep and DnB, and like everyone was coming to me and be like, can you make me playlists and stuff? So that was my job at college. And then I think someone just said to me, they were like, you know, you should be a radio presenter, don't you? When I was like 15. And I was like, yeah, all right. I think you're right. I might do that. And then ever since then, that's been me since I was about 15. And I feel quite lucky because I don't know. I know that at 15, I was very happy, and I felt lucky that I decided at that point that was my goal, and then I just went for it, because it's rare when you're 15, you don't know what's going on in the world and in your life, and there's things happening. But yeah, that's it.
That's so interesting that it was like first you were kind of considering acting and comedy, and I think it speaks volumes that you did kind of try the thing and then, you know, realize that maybe this isn't exactly it. Because yeah, you're right. I think it's very rare for someone to know exactly what their passion is right away.
Yeah,
and often,
definitely.
Often the advice that I've sort of heard is like for younger people, you might not know what you want to do, but you have to like try different things. So if you have like a spark of maybe I might be interested in this, go and try it, and then you'll know for sure if you like it or not, or if it's maybe you're not good at it but you still think it's worthwhile to pursue, or whatever it is. And it's actually so funny that you did kind of excuse me.
Oh.
Okay, have your attention, please.
That might be a fire alarm.
Attention, please. This is uninspired. This is only a test.
Sorry, just 1 second.
This is only a test. Thank you.
Okay, I guess it was just a test. All right.
There you go.
Damn it.
I was going to say, what are the chances of that? That would definitely be something that happens in interviews that I do, or like, yeah, get it.
But yeah, it's so funny that you were also kind of thinking about comedy for a little bit, because as I was preparing for this interview, I was actually thinking to make a joke of like, did you ever think you wanted to be a comedian? Because you're so funny, like.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. I mean, yes, I think I never wanted to do stand-up, but there have, even now, because I've basically got quite a short attention span, so as I'm going through my life and I'm like, once I feel like I've got something nailed, I'm like, I want a new project now.
Sure.
And I have thought over the last few months, like, or to 6 months or whatever, I'd love to get back into acting, and I'd love to just go down and explore that side of things again, and comedy. But yeah, it's definitely something that I would like to maybe venture into. And also, like, I don't know, there's not an age limit on these things.
No.
So I'm quite happy with going, I'm going to do, you know, be the best I can be in these jobs that I've got now, and, you know, try and put my all into them. And who's to say in like 5 years' time I can't do some scatty BBC comedy, and like, you know, why not? So yeah, maybe at some point I'd like to, maybe, I don't know, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like your like, you know, interest and skills in acting and comedy absolutely apply so well with what you're doing and like presenting in radio, because you're injecting comedy, you're comfortable on screen, like on camera, and on like being recorded and stuff. So it's like you've kind of adapted those things into what you're doing in drum and bass. And I totally agree. I mean, I think now more than ever, having like versatile skills or different interests in different kinds of, you know, kind of, I guess, jobs or career paths, it seems like being well-rounded is a good thing, whereas in the past maybe it seems like you're more told to like, you have to specialize in one thing and just do that, and like you can't have other like jobs or interests and skills and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And do you know what? It's something that I speak a lot about with the artists I interview, is I feel like that was also a thing. Once upon a time, it was always, you know, you stay in your lane, you specialise in this and you don't do anything else. And it's like, no. And I really feel like we're coming away from that mentality. And it's like, even with yourself as a vocalist, and you do your podcasts and, you know, your videos and stuff, you're quite a well-rounded individual. You don't just stick to necessarily your singing. I think that's brilliant. And it's like, as creative people, why wouldn't we? Like, why wouldn't we do these different things that feed our soul and make us happy, and explore and do different things? It's like, no, like, there's more to life than that, and staying, doing the same thing. It's boring, not having it.
So I do want to get into a little bit more Laurie Charlesworth history. Okay, so that's so funny that you're doing like playlists for your friends at school. That makes total sense. I so see you doing that. How did you get into radio? And I'd love to know more about your time at Kiss FM.
So my first ever thing that I did in radio was at BBC Northampton when I was 17. Shout out Jordan Keller, who took me along on a Sunday show, and I just used to go and make tea. Classic.
Yes.
First ever job in radio. Literally went and made tea and just kind of sat there waiting for a little job. So I did that for a bit, and then I went and did radio production at Bournemouth Uni, but I only did that because I needed the time allowance and the money through my student loan to get the work experience, because I was never academic. I could never focus. I hated writing like essays. That wasn't me at all. But I knew that if I had a bit of moolah behind me and I had that time, because the course that I was on meant that we had to go and get the experience, I was like, sweet, I'll do that. And then that's what I did. So I went to Bournemouth Uni straight away, started at a station called Fire Radio, and then pretty much straight, like, I don't know, 2 months into that, I started at Kiss FM. So I used to go from Bournemouth to London to work at Kiss like once or twice a week, but I wasn't paid for like the first year, and then I think I was like, oh, I should probably get paid for what I'm doing, because I was like, anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. Long story anyway, but so yes, I was travelling up to Kiss and working on DJ Hype Show, and I started off doing an internship, and I realised that the specialist producer, Charlotte Coker, who I love to pieces, and she's definitely been such an important person within my career, like such a sound boss woman. Everybody respects her. She'd walk in a room and she's like a wicked producer, and everyone just knew that she knew her shit. And to me, I was like, that's the kind of woman that I aspire to be like. So we became really close, and then that was when I started just going up every week working on Hype Show. I've got something on my lips. No, hold on. I've got like Vaseline on my lips. But so I worked with Charlotte, and then I was working with Charlotte, and then just that carried on for like 2 years, and then I kind of left there when she moved to LA, and that's when I started working with Andy and Scott at RAM.
Wow. So Andy, she's talking about Andy C for you folks at home. Just Andy, like, I love that. Me and my boy Andy, that's crazy. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, I really would love to know more about your time. I know you're involved with like the management of Andy C and Adam F. And Adam F is the reason I first heard drum and bass and fell in love with drum and bass. So that is such a huge like wow moment for me. So how did you not fangirl during those years, and like what was that like? Like what kind of, I'm guessing you probably like learned a lot in that time as well. How was that? Like
Yeah. So I mean, I never actually wanted to do the job. It was quite funny how it came around, because Hannah Helbert, who's another person that's been integral in my career, who's one of my best mates now, shout out Hannah, she rang me and she was like, my boss needs an assistant managing Andy and Adam at RAM and like in the management company. Yeah. And I remember I'd just come out of Kiss and I was getting some lunch, and I was like, oh, I don't want to work in artist management. I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. And then I was like, right, I'll go to the interview. So I went to the interview, I met Scott, and I got the job the next day. And I even thought then, I don't really want to do this still. And I thought, okay, it's Andy C, let's do it. And do you know what? It was the best thing that I've ever done in my life. It was like, I just got goosebumps then a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
It was totally life-changing for me. It was like, Andy's amazing, Scott was amazing, Adam's amazing. And I think for a 21-year-old, it was the best job, and I was very grateful to have been given that opportunity to work so closely with all of those people. Scott and Andy started RAM together back in the day. Scott actually taught Andy how to mix, and then working with all the RAM guys, I learned so much and stuff that I will carry with me through everything that I do for the rest of my life. It was brilliant, and working on things like hold on, how am I going to say this? So I played quite a big part in a few of Andy's biggest shows, which is like a career highlight for me, really, from behind the scenes. Like Alexandra Palace, I worked my arse off doing that show. It was like constant, like, I was really, really involved in that. And then seeing it on the night, I just remember standing on a speaker, a monitor in the middle of the rave, just crying to Bricks Don't Roll by DJ Hazard. I was like, oh my God. I was literally crying, and my friend Evie was filming me like, pull it together. She's like, get a grip. But yeah, it was good. And then the XOY residency, the first one, I had a big part to play in that as well. So these are all memories that I hold really close to me, and I'm really grateful that they both gave me the opportunity to be a part of it. So yeah, I learned loads. It was brilliant. Loved it.
I mean, if there's ever a time for happy tears, it is that. Like,
oh my God, there were many happy tears. My favourite memory with Andy actually was I wasn't working, but I went with them to what's the festival in Northampton? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, Global. Oh, I don't know. A Road Mender. Oh, I don't know what it is. Anyway, Gary Kay and that run it. So we went there, we drank a bottle of vodka, we were steaming, and then we went from there to Maid Festival in Birmingham, and everyone was smashed, obviously, apart from Naylor, who was the tour manager. And then Shy FX Feelings is my favourite tune ever, and Andy knows that. Yeah, and like I always used to be like, can you play it today? And he'd be like, maybe. And then he'd always play Jenna G Chaser Status in Love, and that meant that he was going to play Feelings next. So I was always like, it's coming. And there was this one time where we were smashed, and I said to him, can you play Feelings today? And he was like, no, just straight up no. And I was like, all right, sweet. And then we're hammered on stage. There's like thousands of people in front of us at Maid Festival, and I can just hear it coming in. And Andy's hammered, and he just looks around at me, and I'm just like, and it's like drops, and I burst into tears on stage, and we're having this hug on stage. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the best moment ever. And my friend Gary is like pulling at my t-shirt going, stop crying. I was a mess on stage. And then after, me and Andy kind of went backstage, and I was literally in tears saying to him how much my job meant to me and how much music means to me. And it was a real moment. And that was probably my favourite moment of my whole time working with those guys, because it was like, you know, just connecting over music like that is really, really special. It was beautiful. Little random story there.
So surreal. I'm getting the goosebumps and the feels all over again. Wow.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Oh, man. Okay. That's why I feel like I was there with you. I'm like...
I know. I'm so passionate about that story. It's like my favourite story to tell. So I'm glad that I finally had an opportunity to tell it.
Amazing. Okay, so, you know, you've worked with and you've interviewed so many successful people, and I'm curious if there is like some sort of maybe common thread, or maybe something that you kind of hear over and over of like what seems to make this person a successful person in this human world.
I think the most successful people that I meet are just super humble, and that is genuinely a common thread. Like everybody, all of the big artists that I've ever met, they're just really nice people. And I remember when I was at Kiss, I used to work on a few different shows. I'm not going to say the genre because I don't want to look like I'm out in different genres, but there was a specific kind of genre of the shows that would come through, and I noticed that there was a trend in the younger DJs that would come through and sit next to me and be like, what are you doing here then? Who are you? Should you be here? And stuff like this. And I was like, what? Why are you acting like that? And it's like, you know, I found that a lot of the younger artists, I don't know, maybe they assume that they have this ego to be like, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, it's just my experience, but as I've kind of grown, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's necessarily true, but I do see a common thread within the massively successful people, that they are just really nice people. They're just really down to earth, and they're there to do their job. They love the music, and that's what it's all about for them. I think it's a common thread, that I've seen.
I love that you say that, because you're right. I think in a lot of, I guess, media and other genres, you see that kind of like the boastful, the super cool, and that kind of thing. And you're right. I think sometimes if somebody's just consuming that kind of vibe, then you assume that like you have to be that way and let sort of the ego drive you forward, and that's what success looks like. And I love hearing that. I mean, you also sometimes hear that with certain, like, I guess, famous actors or whatever, that they end up, that they're actually like super nice. Some aren't, but so a lot of them are. And it's really cool to hear that, especially if someone's on like such a massive platform and has such a big audience, that they can still be humble, and they're there for the right reasons, and that they're loving what they're doing. That's so inspiring. My heart.
It is. I know. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this thing on my lips. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I know, I agree. And I think that is the most common thread that I've seen. And I think something that I'm keen to share with young people and people that I talk to when I do stuff like this, or like sometimes I'll go and do different things with colleges or music, I don't know, do talks for music things or whatever, and I just say like just be nice. And I know that's a real cliche, but it's like, you know, you can be swept away by X, Y, and Z, but you know, we're all gonna die. We're all just, you know, just be a nice person, do your job, like love what you do, and just be respectful to everyone that you meet, and you're gonna go far. And I think that that's important to remember. And I this is another cliche, but it's like, you know, the people that are at the bottom now that are rising up, if you're gonna treat them badly, you're gonna meet them again. And these industries are only small, and it's like, you know, you circulate quickly, and if you've not been nice to someone, or if you've treated someone in a certain way, they'll remember that. It's like there's a few people that have not treated me badly, but have done little things, and it's like that's now how I associate. That's now what I remember when I see them pop up on different things, and it's like, you know, there's no getting away from that. That's just us as human beings making first impressions, and that's why I think, you know, I would encourage everyone just to be nice, just be nice to people.
Yeah,
everyone's going through shit.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I also recognize that, you know, sometimes it's hard to be nice. Sometimes, you know, people grow up with many hardships and don't really, you know, they don't feel a lot of kindness in their life. So it's very difficult for them to convey that. But it is possible to learn. I know that, I mean, for me, kind of as a younger kid, I think when I was a child, I was really nice and like kind of like a happier kid, and then you kind of go through, for me, you know, those kind of the early teens to the teenagers, like I was I was a little bit of a bitch, to be honest. I mean, it's and I kind of, it was just coming from a time of like I was very cynical of the world, and I remember even being in this state of mind for many years of, whenever people were nice to me or were just kind, I either thought they were lying to me or manipulating me, because there's no way that somebody could actually be like a nice person, or that they were lying to themselves and they were delusional. And there's, you know, so I was in a very like a much darker state of mind, and only later, like in my early 20s, I've kind of, you know, opened up more and had experiences that kind of brought me back, thankfully, to, you know, just the kindness and the source of consciousness, and you know, that it is, that you can be nice, and that will go such a long way.
Definitely. And I think that that's a really good point. You know, we're all human. We're all going to have shit days. Life is hard. We all go through these different things, and we suffer from, you know, different mental health issues. And it's like, that's always worth bearing in mind. I think it's important to know that, because when people do treat you in a certain way, you can have an understanding and a bit of compassion towards like why that might be a thing. It's like that one artist that I was speaking about that was a bit rude to me when I did an interview with him, even though I know it was a bit like whatever. But when I left, I was like, no, do you know what? I understand that he was, I don't know, I felt like he had a bad energy, maybe he was in a bad mood. And it's like, just remember that, I think. But I almost think they're two different things. Having an understanding generally for how people behave is really important. But then also just knowing in terms of tips of how to be successful, almost it's like that it's not that you have to be a dickhead. It's like my old boss used to say to me, "You're too nice," and I used to be like, "No, you're not nice enough."
Wow.
I was like, you. And it's like, do you know what? He ended up being more open to people, and it's like that. And then it's like, you know, I don't think you should be nice to get things, but I think that it's, you know, it's a fact that if you are an open, nice person, the world is going to be good to you. You are going to find that things come back in a good way because you're receptive. I don't know, and you're just being an open person is going to bring you things. So I think that in that respect, that's where I would encourage, you know, just to try and just be nice to people, but then also, to have that understanding is going to help you when when people aren't maybe being nice to you. I don't know. It's difficult. I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
No, I totally agree, because I love too the idea that, or no, not the idea, but like the reality that, especially in the world of drum and bass, like it is a smaller, tight-knit world. And so, you know, if you've been maybe, you know, rude or consciously or unconsciously to somebody, that could kind of come back and bite you in the ass like years down the road. You never know, you know, who's connected to who, or kind of that sort of thing. And as you said, it's not about, you know, being nice for the purpose of getting something back, but I do believe in that kind of the good karma, and what you put out in the world, whether it's good or bad, is gonna come back at you in some way, shape, or form. So it's so important.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I think, I know it's not that as easy as just like, be nice, just forget about your problems. But yeah, I think that just generally, just be, I think you can still be in a bad place and just be respectful, not be a dickhead, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Don't be a dickhead. Yes. Simple as that.
I know that you also do. I'm curious to know a little bit more about the work that you do with the Young Urban Arts Foundation. What is that?
Yeah. So I've worked for UAF, is what we call it in short. It's a charity in London that helps young people get into like different creative arts. So I started off as a podcast tutor about 3 years ago, which was wicked, loved it. And then I was in the office for a little bit, doing a bit of freelance work. I've just basically freelanced for them for a few years. And then last year, after the George Floyd death, I kind of thought, you know, I work in the charity sector. I've always volunteered in like homelessness, and I've teach kids how to DJ, and that's that kind of other side of my life. And then I also work in music and radio, and I was like, do you know what, there's something in the middle here that where I can bring these two worlds together, and I can help with inequality, and I can help try and, I don't know, use both of these things and pull them together to help people. So I pitched an idea for a programme to Kerry, who runs the charity. Shout out Kerry, legend. Yeah, I mean, the whole team's wicked, but anyway. But yeah, so I pitched an idea to do like a programme where I'd basically help 16 to 19-year-olds. Oh, my camera just turned off again. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, so basically to help 16 to 19-year-olds from communities challenged by inequality get into their chosen workplace through work experience. So this is something that I've worked on for the last, what month is it? Like 6 months. So I've got a group of 8 young people, and they want to get into like film or TV or music, and I help upskill them, and then I find them work experience placements. So it went from being this little idea to something that Kerry, who I'm really grateful she gave me the opportunity, it actually turned into a real programme. So that's what I do with them at the minute, which is beautiful. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I love hearing that's sort of a thing out there. Is that's in London, you said?
Yeah, in London. Yeah.
I really believe in that sort of thing of, you know, the power of, I guess, creative outlets to overcome various challenges and things. It reminds me of this organization I used to work with a little bit as well over the years. There's something called Unity Charity, it was started in Toronto, and it's kind of, you know, spread across North America, a little bit international, but mostly in Canada. And their whole thing is, you know, helping youth, especially like at-risk youth, learn the tools or have at least the opportunity to be creative. And so they'll, for example, go into schools for a day, and they'll take over like gym fitness class, and it'll become like a breakdance class for that day. Yes. Or they'll take over English class, and then it'll become like spoken word poetry, like rap class for a day. And they'll bring in like, you know, artists in that kind of field, and they'll spend the day. And then at the end of the day, they'll have like a big assembly where kids get to like sort of talent show kind of do the thing, and or they'll have like after school drop-in classes with like breakdancing and that sort of stuff. And I spent many years, I guess, like kind of volunteering, and then I worked with like the university chapter when I was at uni. And for the first few years when I finished school, I was in the mindset of thinking that I might want to have like a career in nonprofit organizations, and so I spent a couple years helping them write like grant applications for funding and that sort of thing. But more so than like what they were doing, that was such a life changer for me as well, because that was sort of like my whole like upbringing was, I think, helped by, I was always kind of like writing in journals or drawing or like making up dances or like playing on this like little keyboard, and like that for me, I grew up with like a single mom for a period of time, and like spent a lot of time by myself, and like all of those kind of creative things were so helped me just like feel like happier, feel like I had something to do, and then I know for like a lot of kids in those kind of programs, it literally kind of keeps them off the streets after school and that sort of thing. I mean, that's it. It's like giving them something to get stuck into. It's giving them something that they enjoy, and it's like, it's the whole theory of not one size doesn't fit all, and these different charities that provide opportunities like rap masterclasses and lyric writing and breakdancing, and it's that's so important to give them these kind of outlets, because not everybody wants to just muck about on a piano in like a music lesson or like, I don't know, do PE, and it's just like boring. It's like, no, I want to learn how to DJ or produce wicked beats. And this is what I see with the charity, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences volunteering, is, they run with every opportunity. These young people, they're like, it's like they've found themselves, and school necessarily maybe wasn't their thing. And I relate to that because I didn't connect with school at all. I couldn't concentrate for the life of me. I found it really difficult. But then music and drama was my thing, and I put my everything into that. And it's really beautiful to see young people kind of shine in that respect when they're like, there's other areas of their life where they're either having trouble at home or they're not doing well at school, but actually they come to the sessions and they smash it, and they're absolutely smashing it. And every time I leave, I'm like, oh my God, Amazing. It's the most beautiful thing. So it's beautiful. Laurie,
beautiful part
you
of my
do
life.
so many incredible things and across so many different fields. This is me again, like fangirling. Okay, hold on. All right. Bring it back around. I mean, I'm just so, I'm so inspired by you, and I know that you mentioned like you've been freelance for several years now. I know that that's probably, a huge journey for you. I know you're essentially like an entrepreneur in many different creative aspects. And so I'm curious, like, how's that whole journey been like? I'm sure there were probably challenges along the way. Like, how did you kind of overcome that? And especially, I'm throwing many questions at you. How do you also like manage your time as an entrepreneur? I think that's something I'd really like to know as well.
Okay, so I mean, my calendar freaks people out. Like my friends that look at my calendar, they're like, "Oh my God, I can't even look at this. It's just really overwhelming." But that's how I work. I have to see everything in one place. I'm like, right, I'm doing this day, this is, and it's sometimes I feel bad or not feel bad. But when I start different jobs, I say, I work very much on that day for you, and then I have to move on to the next one because that's how my brain works. I'm not one of those people that can do different things like like I have to. Like I said, I've always suffered with poor concentration. So for me, having specific days to do things is really important. And I work months in advance. Like I know what I'm doing right up until August, like middle of August now. Like everything's in the diary. So yeah, I've trained myself to be organised, which is good. What was your first question? It was it was about being freelance. Yeah. So, oh my God, starting off being freelance was a huge struggle, and I'm sure anyone that is a freelancer can relate. So I left my job with Andy and Scott quite arrogantly, thinking, I've just left a job managing Andy, say I'm going to be able to just surely go and get another job doing something. That was not my mentality, but I thought I was very naive in thinking that I've done a few different things now. I can just kind of hopefully get a different role straight away. And it wasn't the case at all. So I left there without a different job. And then that's when I went freelance out of no choice really. I applied for loads of different things. I went and spoke to loads of my mates that work in different companies in music, and I was just like, have you got any work? And I didn't have anything, and it was a really difficult time for me. That maybe the first year, I really struggled. I did a lot of promo. I did a lot of I was working on like burger vans at festivals and like doing different, pub jobs. I was doing anything to make money. So yeah, that was difficult. And then eventually, I was still networking and still talking to people, and then opportunities started arising. But there's no disputing the whole freelance, when you first get started, it's very difficult, I think, to get on your feet and make some proper money. Like, yeah, I think unless you fall on your feet, which is probably, I hope that most people do, but I think it's probably a rarity. I think I don't know if I maybe expect to do whatever you can in terms of like bar work and stuff to get yourself going. Really, you got to pay your rent. Your rent has got to be paid, and that's as simple as that.
Right, and you're like kind of right in the thick of uncertainty and adapting to change and that sort of thing. And I'd really love to ask you if you're comfortable talking about this sort of thing. It seems like your mental health has to be really strong, or rather you have to kind of really work on maintaining that in the face of those kinds of challenges. Is there... is there anything you kind of do to help maintain your mental health? Yeah,
so I have, to be honest, I've never really suffered with my mental health up until the pandemic.
Right.
So when the pandemic hit, like I do this new thing now, which is exciting, where I go and like I breathe funny. But it's like if anything, I never did that before, and it's like any of the announcements I would like hyperventilate, and these are all new struggles to me. So before that, I was very much, I think my life moved so quickly. I didn't give myself time to consider my mental health, and this is something that I've seen through the pandemic is giving my, am I okay? How am I feeling today? Relax. I'm trying to work out my schedule a bit better so that I don't overwhelm myself. Whereas before, I didn't care if I did like 10 different jobs that week and I went out 4 times and I had like 4 hours sleep over the weekend and I'd go for dinner every night, that I was just constant. And looking back, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, how did I even live like that? Like, it was just crazy. And I think when you go so fast that you almost don't realise that so much time has gone, and was I okay in that time? I don't know, because when the pandemic hit, I got quite down and depressed. I lost all my work, and there were issues that I'd faced. There were issues that I hadn't resolved from years ago that had started to become quite apparent in that time where I stopped. So I stopped, and then I was like, oh shit, maybe I've been working so much, like, because I've been trying to just forget about X, Y, and Z. And it gave me, the time last year to really think about if I was okay, what I need to do to make sure that I deal with these different issues that I've got. So we're obviously still in the pandemic, so I feel like I've come out of that now, but I think I now have a bit more of an understanding that maybe I do have these issues, and I need to kind of like respect that and face them and work towards fixing them. The pandemic's opened a lot of, it's done a lot for a lot of people. I think a common thread that I've seen through my interviews is this, really, is that people have finally stopped and gone, oh shit, maybe I'm not okay, or maybe this is affecting me more than I realised. So yeah.
It's also one of those things that I find, there is definitely, there's, mental health, I guess, I don't want to say the word diseases, but like afflictions, like, actual like clinically diagnosed anxiety and depression and that kind of thing. And then there's the more sort of the day-to-day stuff. And I find that it's one of those things where you do have to kind of work at it on a regular basis, even if nothing is kind of outwardly or consciously wrong. I guess like similar to, I equate it to like kind of physical health of, if you don't exercise for like 10 years, then, you know, you might be okay for that amount of time, but then maybe it catches up to you and does hit you at a particular period of time. And I feel like with mental health kind of stuff, like, I guess my strongest example here is I started meditating like 10 or so years ago when I really got into it, and I was doing meditation and yoga every single night, and I got to a place where I was like, wow, this is, you know, I'm at my most like zen, like I'm good now. I don't need this anymore because I've gotten to a place where like I'm good, and now I just have to meditate in my waking life without actually meditating, but just like I'm going to carry this with me. And then like, you know, didn't do it for many years and went through a whole other lots of other stuff. Not entirely because I stopped meditating, but just when I started back up again. And it's still not something I do like super regular. I'm kind of maybe a few times a week, trying to be daily, but a few times a week. And it's just kind of made me realize like, oh, I should have never like stopped this. And it's something that you have to, I guess, maintain so that you don't slip under, or that you can just continue to have like the mental clarity and not burn out and that kind of thing. All easier said than done. I'm no Zen master.
Yeah, but I think it's just important to remember, and I think you don't know to continue these things until you've had an experience like ours, when you kind of have to come back to, when you've realised, oh, maybe I should have carried on, or you have like a bit of an awakening like I did, where it's like, oh, okay, this was actually what was going on, and now I need to work on it. So I think it's different for everyone, but it's definitely an experience thing, I think, because I don't think you realise that it's an option almost. Like, my friends are constantly trying to tell me to get into meditating and no, meditation's the main one, and I'm always like, I don't have time, or it's like it's not on my radar, and I do feel like I don't have time even still. But I, you know, if I was to take that time out, it would be like, oh God, this really does help me actually. Who knew? It'd be like, what's going on here? But yeah, I don't know. I think the gym really helps for mental health too. That's something that that's my thing. It's like, go to the gym, no phone, just like it's my time to work on myself and just. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big gym freak, don't get me wrong. I've got like a lot of timber on the old belly, but it's like, but even so, just getting down to the gym for me, even the walk down there, I'm just like, you know, it's my time to do something good for myself. So yeah, that's my thing.
That's awesome. I really commend you for that, because I would almost, I don't want to put like less weight on meditation, because it is extremely helpful, but I would say I would always probably, in my ideal world, and again, I'm obviously no like fitness influencer here either, but it seems to me that like exercise number one, and then, you know, meditation, and then, you know, I know that the time thing definitely is a commitment. I would definitely encourage you, even just like literally like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, nothing more.
I need to do it.
But I'm not going to be overbearing on that.
I'll give it a go.
Yes, and I will exercise more, because Laurie is inspiring.
There you go. We'll let each other know how we get on with that. Let's do it.
It's definitely, I mean, I was definitely in a really good rhythm before the pandemic, and then when all the gyms closed, I had a really hard time motivating myself to, you know, it is as easy as like just dropping down and doing push-ups at home. I'm at home, but like, I would not.
No, it's really hard to motivate yourself at home. So I put on I put on a fair amount of weight over the last like 6 months, because I just don't have that motivation at home, like that whole get up and go. And that's why the gym helps me, because I'm, you know, it's easy walking down there. And then when I'm there, it's like, oh, I have to do things. Yeah, there's nothing else to do in the gym apart from like work out. But whereas when I'm at home, I'm in bed, I'm like, oh, I could just have a cup of tea and chill and like have a glass of wine. It's easier to be like, I'm not going to do that. So yeah.
I don't want to hammer on too much about pandemic related stuff, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a little bit about it. I know, you know, you mentioned that you'd lost a lot of work as a result, and you are right in the thick of like, you know, the music industry and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, how has it been?
That's a big question. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody else that I speak to about it is just trying to deal with it step by step. really difficult at the start. Like I said, I lost all my work, was on universal credit. And this is, like I said before about stopping, is I did a lot of work in the homeless hotels. Like in London, I don't know if they did that where you live, but they tried to get loads of homeless people in hotels. So I did that, and there was another project that I was working on because like I said before, I've kind of worked volunteering in homelessness for about 7 years, so that felt like my natural thing to do. So I did that for the first 4 months of the pandemic, which was really eye-opening, like seeing that and just being there for something that I thought was quite historical. Like, when has the UK government ever given a shit about homeless people? And then all of a sudden there's thousands of them in these hotels. So it kind of helped me, it gave me some purpose after I'd lost all of my work. Although I wasn't earning any money, it was like, that was what was important to me at the time. So that was the first bit. Oh. Then I got really depressed and down. And then I think in maybe November, that's when things started to pick up. I was on Radio 1 again at Christmas.
Yes, and then congratulations, First Lady.
Yeah.
Woo woo.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so then that happened, and it was like, okay, things are picking up now. And then the drum and bass radio happened, and it was like, ever since then, it's just, everything's been amazing. I'm so grateful. And it's like, my friend messaged me the other day saying, haha, weren't you so down though, like a year ago? Look how things turn out. And I'm like, yeah, I know, mate. It's like, at the time, all your mates are like, things are going to be okay. And, I like to give that advice to my friends. And I'm just happy that it was true, that everything turned out to be good. And I'm just happy that the 2021 end of the pandemic, or I don't know if it's the end yet, but this side of the pandemic has been really good. And I've been able to really focus on the shows and give them my all and give them my attention. It's been a mixed bag, really, I think.
Well, I've absolutely been loving your Laurie's Liquid Hour on Why Now as well. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What's your favorite thing about doing that?
I love having full creative control. Like, it just makes me so happy. And I always feel really grateful being able to do shows and interview artists that I love, and being able to edit the interviews and being able to pick the artists and being able to, like, it's totally my show. Whereas a lot of shows, you'll have producers that do things for you and you're just a presenter, and it's like, that's great and it's really easy for you to do your job and then go and do other things. But I love really having, like, doing everything, and I think choosing how the art, editing the interviews down so that you can help people be portrayed in the best way. And I don't know, I love having creative control on that. And I also love it that it doesn't just mean that I speak to producers and DJs. Like, Liquid is quite broad. Like, I'm planning to speak with promoters, and I've spoken with a lot of vocalists and MCs, and they're never in the spotlight, I don't think. So to be able to speak to people like Degs, who was on today, and Charlotte Haining and Colette Warren, and these brilliant artists that, I want to hear from the vocalists. Like, they to me, like, you guys make the tracks. It's like your, the voices on music is just what is everything to me. So to be able to interview vocalist is, that's probably my favourite thing, actually.
Cool, awesome. I really commend you for just kind of sticking through pandemic, and things did turn out to be okay, but I want to remind you that it's because of your hard work and perseverance and kindness and humbleness, and so definitely it starts with you. So I'm glad you're okay.
You're so lovely.
I guess I want to let's pretend that the pandemic is over and festivals are rocking and things are happening. And for someone like me, so before the pandemic hit, it was sort of the first year that I was starting to consider saving up a bunch of money to try to come overseas and pick one drum and bass festival, because I've never been. And I, in my mind, was thinking it's got to be Let It Roll. But asking you as the expert, if I had to pick one drum and bass festival, never been to the UK or Europe for a drum and bass festival, I guess you could pick like Australia, New Zealand as well. But let's focus UK, Europe. Which one
Yeah.
should I pick? And is Let It Roll the correct answer?
I mean, Let It Roll is that's like, yeah, that's up there for sure. I'm a massive jump up head, so I love jump up. So I sometimes feel that maybe I'm not the best person to ask, because like Global Gathering back in the day, it's not on anymore. But there's loads of my favourite jump up sets from that festival, and what I would give for that to be back on. But I don't know. I think if you're going to come over, you want, a mixture of different things and vibes. You want to see all your favourite DJs and you want to have fun. I'd probably say Let It Roll, number one. Nice. But if you just want like, a UK-based festival, it's got to be something that Hospital put on. Right. It's got to be like Hospitality in the Woods, just coming up in September, or Hospitality in the Park, because I think they're really good at providing the full spectrum. I rate it that they're like that, like from Kings the Rollers to Caliber to, like the critical stage to like Run. It's like, it's everything. And it's like, yes, like every time I go to one of their events, it's just, if you're a DnB head and you don't necessarily care about, when you go to festivals and there's weird people walking around, like as in like in costumes and stuff, and it's all artsy fartsy and
Burning
like,
Man.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, I get it, mate, but where are the good tunes at? Like, if you're there for tunes, then yeah, maybe something Hospital put on. But then there's so many good things. Like I said, I'm a jump up head, so maybe that's not my truest answer. That's my overall answer for anyone watching.
You know what? That's a good point. I'm glad I asked you, because I kind of thought like Let It Roll was the full mix, but you're right. Like there's
I reckon though. It is if we're talking Europe. If Europe, definitely. Do you know what though? To be honest, I can't even remember festivals. So I'm trying to pull from things that I can remember, but I can't. Yes. It feels like a million miles away from me now.
Distant memory.
Outlook is my favourite festival.
Oh, okay.
Outlook in Croatia. Okay. That one for me is like, there's a bit of dubstep. There's like, but like scream kind of like, and banger and cokey kind of dubstep.
Sick.
And like a little bit of grime nowadays, but like really like soulful deep DnB and like a little bit of heavy stuff. So Outlook for me is the one. Okay. That's what I'm going with actually. Right. Croatia, Outlook, it's got to be done.
Well, I got to start saving now, so it's all of them.
Yeah, do them all. Just do them all.
Oh man, well, we can dream, and I guess I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to wrap up with one last question for you, and that is, you've done so many things in media, in radio, and presenting, DJing, all of it. And I'm wondering if you have any tips or even like watch outs for people wanting to get into radio, media, music journalism, or even just like the music industry in general. Yeah,
I would just say, I think we're moving out of a time where free work isn't a thing. So like a lot of people are paying their interns and stuff now. However, free work was... That's my cup of tea. Hold on, sorry. I've got like a little situation going on. Okay. Okay, so, I'm going to carry on from... So did you get the... Hold on. Can you hear that?
No, but I know exactly what's happening.
I couldn't burp until I was about 23 and I made this weird noise in my throat. Anyway. So although we're moving away from a time where, people aren't paid for internships, I would say never underestimate how powerful a bit of free work could be in terms of your career. So like everything that I did at the start, I worked my arse off for free for years, and I wanted to meet everybody, and it was all about, just getting myself out there and building up my skills. And I think don't necessarily expect, you have to make it work, but understand that meeting people is really important and making good impressions. So free work, I rate it. I don't know, just get yourself out there and go and like meet people authentically. Just be nice. If you connect with someone, maybe start a project and just be open to different things. And as always, my top tip, just be nice. Yeah. Don't be a dickhead. Stay humble, and work your arse off. Just be ready to work your arse off. And I think that these industries are very competitive, but if you're willing to work, someone has to do these roles. Like, so people have to do these jobs, and I find a common thing throughout everybody that I've ever met in music and radio is that they just work so hard. They work, and it's like, you know, you have to have that mentality, because if you're not going to work hard, someone else is. So yeah, stay humble, don't be a dickhead, and work your ass off.
Amazing.
That's my obvious top tips.
I love it. No, you're absolutely right. And thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for being here. This was so lovely to chat with you. I know we've never chatted before, but I feel like I've known you from your content. Isn't that a weird thing that happens when you feel like you know someone, but you don't actually?
Yeah. I get it all the time. Like, I do one interview with someone, I'm like, oh, we're mates now. I'm like, brilliant. Got a new friend for life. Excellent.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to meet you one day in person as well, hopefully at a festival.
We will.
And just want to wish you all the best with all the incredible projects that you're doing, and maybe 5 years from now, your comedy projects as well. I'm sure you're going to smash it.
Maybe, we'll see. Thank you so much. It's honestly been just amazing. So massive respect to you. You're wicked and lovely. Thank you for having me on the show.
I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for everyone watching and listening. Got some merch on my website, flowanastasia.com. Have to try to promote myself because I don't know how. And I'll have all of Laurie's social media links in the description as well. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you're doing okay. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye. Bye.